A Qatari businessman wanted to build a school, a noble dream, a place for children, an investment in the future. He needed $15 million to make it happen. 3 men told him they could help. One claimed to be a loan consultant from Kenya. Another posed as a Wells Fargo banker in New York named Malik. The third built a fake bank website so convincing the businessman never suspected a thing. For months, they strung him along. Fake documents, fabricated phone calls, a bogus banking portal that looked exactly like Wells Fargo's real site. The businessman wired $1.1 million. There was no school, there was no loan, there was no Malik. There was only Ramon Alurenois Abbas, better known to his 2.8 million Instagram followers as Hush Puppy, the man who posted pictures of private jets and Gucci loafers, who flaunted Rolls-Royces and Richard Mille watches, who lived in a gilded Dubai penthouse and called himself a real estate developer. He wasn't a developer. He was a fraudster. And the $1.1 million stolen from a man trying to build a school, Hush Puppy spent $230,000 of it on a single watch. Then he wore it on Instagram. This is the story of the Qatari school scam. How Hush Puppy conned a businessman out of over $1 million, how the scheme fell apart when thieves turned on each other, and how, in a twist nobody saw coming, Hush Puppy paid a bribe to Nigeria's most celebrated police officer to jail his own accomplice. Because in Hush Puppy's world, even justice was for sale. Ramon Alurenois Abbas didn't start as Hush Puppy. He started as a Lagos hustler, born into poverty, no family wealth, no connections. But he had ambition, and he discovered something powerful. The internet makes everyone equal. In the early 2010s, Abbas began running romance scams and business email compromise schemes, what Nigerians call Yahoo Yahoo. The method was simple but effective. Hack into a business email account, impersonate an executive, send instructions to wire money to a new account. By the time anyone realized the email was fake, the money was gone. Abbas was good at it, very good. And as his wealth grew, he did something unusual for a fraudster. He flaunted it. Most scammers hide. They stay off social media. They avoid attention. Hush Puppy did the opposite. He created an Instagram persona, Ray Hush Puppy, and turned fraud proceeds into a lifestyle brand. Private jets, Ferraris, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Richard Mille watches worth hundreds of thousands. He posed with celebrities, Nigerian musicians Davido and Wizkid, English footballers, influencers. He posted motivational quotes about hard work and success. Gucci Billy, he called himself. His captions dripped with luxury, and his followers ate it up. 2.8 million of them. They saw wealth, success, the African dream realized. What they didn't see was the fraud machine behind it. By 2019, Hush Puppy had assembled a crew. Abdul Rahman Imran Juma, a 28-year-old Kenyan who went by Abdul. Kelly Chibuzo Vincent, a 40-year-old Nigerian document forger. Yusuf Adekinka Enafowosh, AJ, a Brooklyn-based accomplice. Rukayet Fashola and Bolatito Agbabika, money launderers operating out of New York. Together, they ran business email compromise schemes targeting victims worldwide. And in late 2019, they identified a new mark. The victim was a Qatari businessman. He wanted to build an international school in Qatar, a legitimate project, a noble cause. He needed financing, $15 million. That's when Abdul reached out. Abdul claimed to represent Westlode Financial Solutions, a Kenyan company that could provide the loan. The businessman was interested. Abdul seemed professional. The company looked real. But there was a complication, Abdul explained. The loan needed to be arranged through a major international bank, specifically Wells Fargo. And Abdul knew just the person to help, his banker friend in New York, Malik. Malik was Ramon Abbas. Using a fake email address and a spoofed phone number, Hushpuppi posed as a Wells Fargo banker based in New York. He was smooth, professional, convincing. He sent the Qatari businessman official-looking documents, loan agreements, terms and conditions. Everything looked legitimate. But to make it truly believable, they needed a website. That's where Kelly Chibuzo Vincent came in. Vincent created a fake Wells Fargo banking portal. It looked identical to the real thing. Same logo, same layout, same login system. The businessman could log in, check his account balance, see pending transactions. It was all fake, but it looked real.
In December 2019, Malik told the businessman the loan was almost approved, but Wells Fargo needed some upfront fees. Standard procedure, he explained. The businessman wired $230,000 to an account Malik provided. The money went to a luxury watch dealer in Florida. Hushpuppi had just purchased a Richard Mille RM1103, a high-end timepiece worth over $200,000. He arranged for the watch to be picked up in New York by Fashola and Agbabiaka, his money launderers. They handed it to a courier who flew it to Dubai. On January 4, 2020, the watch was hand-delivered to Hushpuppi. 9 days later, he posted a photo on Instagram wearing it. #RM1103. The Qatari businessman, still believing his school loan was being processed, had no idea his money was on Hushpuppi's wrist. Over the next 2 months, Malik continued the charade. More fees were needed, processing charges, administrative costs. The businessman wired another $100,000, then $80,000 more. Each time, the money was laundered through Hushpuppi's network of accomplices in New York. By mid-February 2020, the businessman had sent $1.1 million, and he was starting to get suspicious. The loan kept getting delayed. The explanations were vague. He reached out to Abdul, demanding answers. That's when everything fell apart. Abdul and Hushpuppi had a problem. They'd stolen $1.1 million together, but now they had to split it, and they couldn't agree on the shares. Abdul believed he deserved more. After all, he'd brought in the victim. He'd set up the initial contact. Hushpuppi disagreed. He'd done the heavy lifting, playing Malik, managing the fake website, coordinating the money laundering. The partnership soured, and Kelly Chibuzo Vincent, the document forger, saw an opportunity. In mid-February 2020, Vincent contacted the Qatari businessman directly. He told him the truth. Abdul and Hushpuppi were scamming him. The businessman was furious. He demanded his money back. He threatened to go to the authorities. Abdul panicked. The scam was unraveling. But Hushpuppi had a plan. He would eliminate the problem, not by returning the money, but by silencing Vincent. And he knew exactly who to call. Abba Kiri was Nigeria's most celebrated police officer, nicknamed Super Cop, Deputy Commissioner of Police, head of the Intelligence Response Team. He'd arrested kidnappers, armed robbers, and high-profile criminals. In 2018, he received a Presidential Medal for Courage from President Muhammadu Buhari. The Nigerian House of Representatives praised him as a model of integrity. He was a hero. He was also corrupt. Hushpuppi and Kiri had a relationship. In September 2019, Kiri had visited Dubai. Hushpuppi arranged everything: airport pickup, luxury hotel, city tour. They became friends, or at least business associates. And now, Hushpuppi needed a favor. On February 16, 2020, Hushpuppi called Kiri. He told him that Vincent had threatened his family in Nigeria, that Vincent was dangerous and needed to be arrested immediately. Kiri agreed to help. Within hours, Vincent was arrested in Lagos. Kiri sent Hushpuppi photos of Vincent in custody, proof that the job was done. Then he sent something else: bank account details. The FBI would later obtain WhatsApp messages between Hushpuppi and Chiari. In the messages, Chiari provided 2 bank account numbers, one with Guarantee Trust Bank, one with Zenith Bank. Hushpuppi arranged for 8 million naira, about $20,000, to be deposited into those accounts. Payment for Vincent's arrest. Vincent was held for several weeks, then quietly released when it became clear there was no actual threat. But by then, the damage was done. Vincent had been silenced. The Qatari businessman's complaint went nowhere, and Hushpuppi thought he'd gotten away with it. He hadn't. The FBI had been watching. Business email compromise scams had become a massive problem in the United States, billions in losses annually. And Hushpuppi's Instagram posts showing wealth that didn't match any legitimate income had caught their attention. In June 2020, Dubai police raided Hushpuppi's apartment. They found cash, lots of it, stacks of dollars, euros, and dirhams. They found dozens of phones and computers, evidence of fraud schemes targeting victims worldwide. They arrested Hushpuppi and several associates, and they handed him over to the FBI. Hushpuppi was extradited to the United States. He was charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud, conspiracy to engage in money laundering, and aggravated identity theft. The Qatari school scam was just one of many. The FBI discovered he'd been involved in schemes that caused over $24 million in total losses. In April 2021, facing overwhelming evidence, Hushpuppi pleaded guilty. His lawyer, who later claimed he hadn't advised the guilty plea, said nothing publicly. And in November 2022, Hushpuppi was sentenced. 11 years in federal prison, $1.7 million in restitution to his victims. At 40 years old, Hushpuppi would spend the prime of his life behind bars. The private jets were gone. The Gucci was gone. The Richard Mille watch, evidence now, sitting in an FBI evidence locker. The Instagram account that once had 2.8 million followers, deleted. But the story didn't end there. When Hushpuppi's plea agreement was unsealed, it contained explosive information. Details about the Qatari school scam, names of accomplices, bank records, and a bombshell. Abba Chiari had been bribed to arrest Vincent. The FBI had WhatsApp messages, bank transfers, photos Chiari had sent to Hushpuppi showing Vincent in custody. It was all there. The super cop, the man who'd received a presidential medal, who'd been praised by Parliament, who was supposed to represent the best of Nigerian law enforcement, had been paid by a fraudster to jail an innocent man. The Nigerian police force suspended Chiari in August 2021. An internal investigation was launched. Chiari denied the allegations. He claimed Vincent's arrest was legitimate, a response to a distress call about threats to Hushpuppi's family. He insisted no money changed hands. But the FBI had receipts, literally. The U.S. Department of Justice issued an arrest warrant for Chiari. They requested extradition. Nigeria refused. Chiari remained in Nigeria, suspended but not arrested, under investigation but not charged. And then, in a twist, Chiari was arrested in 2022, not for the Hushpuppi bribery, but for cocaine trafficking. He's currently in prison, but not because of Hushpuppi. The Qatari school scam reveals something fundamental about modern fraud. It's not just about technology, it's about performance. Hushpuppi didn't hide his wealth, he weaponized it. The Instagram posts weren't just vanity, they were proof of concept. Look how successful I am, they said. Trust me. And people did. The Qatari businessman trusted Abdul because Abdul seemed connected. He trusted Malik because Malik had a Wells Fargo email and a banking portal. He trusted the process because everything looked legitimate. That's the genius and the cruelty of business email compromise scams. They exploit trust, they fake legitimacy, and by the time you realize it's fraud, the money's gone. Hushpuppi is in a California federal prison. He'll be released in 2033. He'll be 51 years old. Abdul, the Kenyan who started the scam, remains at large. Kenyan authorities haven't arrested him. The US wants him, but he's beyond reach. Kelly Vincent, the document forger who tried to expose the scam, disappeared after his release from Nigerian custody. No one knows where he is. The accomplices in New York, Fashola, Agbabiaka, and Anifowoshe, were arrested and are awaiting trial or have pleaded guilty. And the Qatari businessman? He lost $1.1 million. The school was never built. But somewhere in a California federal prison, inmate number 433911-112 still remembers what it felt like to wear a $230,000 watch bought with stolen money, and post it on Instagram. #RM1103.